Our next guest is the co-founder of record label Partisan Records and Talkhouse, a media outlet for musicians, actors, and filmmakers. Please welcome Ian Wheeler.
Hey, how's it
How you
going?
doing? So Ian, we're gonna have a nice chat about your New York Times op-ed, Shakespeare Survived Quarantine with a little help from his patrons. So can you tell us a little bit about your stance on how creatives are getting through being quarantined and staying inside?
Sure. I mean, I think like all of us, they're coping in different ways. Um, I think artists tend to be naturally pretty empathetic people. And so I've seen just a huge amount of the artist community reaching out to see how they can help and what they can do. I think for some people that's just going on Instagram Live and playing some songs. I think for other artists, it's trying to actually raise money for different funds that are supporting artists, touring personnel, restaurant staff, venue staff. I've even seen artists try and contribute towards production of PPE and masks and things like that. So I think for every artist it's different. But yeah, I know that community is being hit, our community is being hit especially hard. Because it's pretty clear they're not going to be concerts for a while.
Mm-hmm. And in your article, you sort of made it a little clear that you think that this might be we have this high expectation to create while we're in here. How do you feel that takes a toll on creatives? Musicians, actors, filmmakers, whomever, journalists like myself. It could take a toll because we now have so much weight on our shoulders, right?
That's right. And I think you make a great point about journalists. I would put them in the same box. When bad things happen, we look to people like artists and journalists to create things that make us feel better, reassure us. That puts a lot of pressure on those folks and that community. I think for artists specifically, prior to this COVID crisis, there was a mental health crisis in the arts community. There has been for a while. I think it's also has to do with our healthcare system in the United States, and we need to do a better job taking care of our people. I think that's a nonpartisan statement, and it's not political. I think we're just at a place as a country where we need to do a better job of taking care of each other. So the arts community was already kind of dealing with this mental health issue, and I think when bad things happen, we turn to artists to create the things that make us feel better. That puts a lot of pressure on them. And so I think they're in a pretty precarious place. And I think too, they also don't necessarily know where their income's gonna come from or if it's gonna come in the next several months. So I think that's a pretty terrifying thing as well.
Speaking of the income situation, how do you feel that we are, being supported during all of this? I think, and personally, I think that a lot of people are overlooking the creative community when it comes to support financially, mostly financially. I think a lot of people, they want to support, the essential workers, which are, very important. Essential workers are very important. Then they talk about those who lost their jobs or have to work from home. But I think the creative community, those who had several part-time jobs, because, it's hard being a creative. You don't always have one steady form of income. You have several part-time jobs that probably weren't essential. So you ended up getting laid off. How do you feel that support, what that support is it great? Is it, could it work? Could it get better?
Yeah, so I think it can definitely get better. I mean, I think, I think from a consumer standpoint, from all of us who listen to music or watch TV or consume art in any form, it's a good time to think about how we can be more supportive. I think most of us probably pay $12 a month to Spotify, and we pay $10 a month here for Hulu, whatever that is. I think we should start thinking about ways to give money directly to artists as well, buying merchandise from them. A lot of them have Patreon accounts, which I think is a great service. And if you're a real fan of that artist, you can get some extra content and some added value just by paying a few dollars a month to your favorite artist. So I think, in general, we need to rethink the way we're supporting the artist community, and we're taking a lot from them and we're getting a lot out of them. There's songs that I listen to every single day, and they help me in one way or another, whether it's working out or waking up, whatever that is. And so I think a lot about, am I, compensating the creators of this stuff well enough? Because I sure am using it a lot. So I think that's something kind of, we can all do. As far as, how we kind of prioritize where we're directing funds right now, I think that's really tough. And you're right. It is really important that we're supporting the people on the front lines right now as much as possible. I think the next phase will see us having to make some hard decisions and think pretty hard about, where support needs to go next. For artists, I think the thing that's tough is most of them don't have health insurance. They don't have steady paychecks. They don't have these benefits that come along with a lot of other steady gigs. So I think they're in a pretty unique situation along with a lot of other freelance professionals.
So how do you feel what the best way would be to go about supporting artists during this time? A lot of us, I would consider myself, I do a lot more other than this, so I would consider myself somewhat of an artist as well. How do we get support through all of this?
So I think the best thing fans can do right now, tweet at your favorite artists and ask them, what you can do. For some artists, it's different. Some do have those Patreon accounts where they try and get people to go and subscribe and pay a small monthly fee for some extra exclusive content. Other artists, they have merch sitting on hand that they want to sell and ship to you. It really varies by artists, what their preferences are. Some artists I've even seen posting links to their Venmo accounts, which I think is totally fine. And I can think of any number of artists who, if they did that in a minute, I would be sending them money, and some I already have. So I think, the best thing we can do is ask the artist directly. And thankfully, we do have social media as a means to communicate with that community and go directly to them and ask them how our support is most useful for them.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Ian, for your input. I think that a lot of people should go out and support even their local creatives, people, that they know that they support, that they have a good, relationship with, or somebody that they, are just fans of. They might not even have made it super far yet, but everybody's struggling right now. So I think that your input is very important for those who maybe have overlooked the people in the creative community. So thank you so much, Ian.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for covering this. It really means a lot to the community.
Of course.